understanding the different personality types. You know, one reason that I love this class is because every transaction that we do, we have multiple personalities involved in every one of these transactions. And understanding people and trying to predict and prevent some of their actions and reactions is really part of the secret to a successful transaction. Because you guys know, there is no matter how we try to avoid the emotions of a real estate transaction, this is an emotional time of everybody's life. And knowing and understanding how people might react because you understand their personality type can prevent a lot of the emotional roller coaster that sometimes we are on during these transactions. So, and I just find the different personality types very interesting. So I hope you enjoy the content that I have to share today. So I'm going to share screen. Moving forward, I think I'm going to try to do some of these classes without doing so much shared screen, but today I am not feeling very animated, so we're going to share screen. And that way you guys can read some of the information as we go along too. All right, you guys are seeing the different personality types, the cover. Okay, cool. All right. So the purpose is just to understand those personality types and how to motivate each personality type that you are going to deal with every part of the transaction, and understand, again, so if you understand why people act the way they do, then it's a lot easier to prevent some of those reactions. So I really, for simplicity, really enjoy using the DISC test to determine the different personality types. And as we go through this, you'll see how easy it is to identify the different personalities once you understand the how each one of them act and react. What's super important is to be able to identify the different personalities. For example, if you're going into a house and you're fixing to list the house, and you're dealing with, typically, you are dealing with two decision makers, not just one. And understanding how they work together to make decisions as a team, and who's the real decision maker out of the two makes a big difference in how you're going to make that presentation whenever you're doing the listing presentation. Same thing whenever you're dealing with the buyers. And so the DISC test has 4 different personality types that is identified, and it's DIC or SC. So dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance is just the summary of those 4 personalities. Now, you know as well as I do that not everybody fits in a box. So there's going to be a combination or variation of each one of those personality types. And so and you got to know and understand too, for instance, my personality type in general public and in just a social environment and, you know, a friendly environment is different than what my personality is in the workplace. Same thing within a family unit. You know, the family personality type in a family unit that's your behavioral, that's your natural environment, that is your natural behavior. And then for me, since I'm in an office throughout the day, I have adaptive personality style and it's just my personality that I've adapted just for being in the workplace doing what I do for a living. So, which is why a lot of times you'll see just the combination of the different personality types. So this is a good chart to keep handy, but I have some other handouts that are good for you to keep handy if you want to do a screenshot as we go, just to make it easier for you to identify. And it may be something you want to just kind of keep in your photo gallery. If you take a picture with your phone and keep it in your photo gallery and refer back to whenever you're dealing with the different personality types. I'm a visual person. So I like to really relate the different personality types to something that I can visualize, which to me is a bird. I love birds. Your D personality, your dominant personality type is your eagle. Office eagles, and again, we're talking about this in a business setting because even whenever you're dealing with a customer that is looking for houses, they're making business decisions. So it's more of their adaptive personalities that you're dealing with. So your Ds are your dominant people. They are your office eagles. whenever and just think D for dominance. I mean, and what are the characteristics of someone who has that dominant personality? You know, they're usually your drivers, they're your bossy people, they're your take charge. They're straight to the point, and whenever they communicate, they're very direct. So I was talking to, I can't even think about, last night I was talking to somebody, and oh, I know who it was, but I said, I love how you communicate. I have some D in me. So if someone communicates with me in bullet points, I'm all in. And I don't take offense to someone who is direct with their communication, because that's how I function too. I'm very direct, I'm very driven, and that's what your Ds, that's how they like to communicate. But sometimes that can be off-putting if you're too direct to somebody who is not ready for someone to be so straight and to the point. So with every strength is always a weakness. So this is just a really good slide. You guys will get a copy of it to just know and understand, if you are a high D, some of the ways that you can avoid communicating to some of the other personality types is not to be so abrupt, and to really soften it and not be so overbearing, because it can just be too much. Your the influencer, your eyes are people, those are your salespeople. They like to talk, they like to talk about themselves, they are very persuasive. So whenever they are communicating, they're already thinking, how am I going to convince this person to do what I want them to do? But sometimes that eye can be very off-putting because they talk too much. And oftentimes, you know, you've heard for years and years, you talk yourself out of a sale. That's usually your parrot that talks so much, they talk themselves out of a sale. They just don't know when to stop. So again, with every strength, there is always a weakness. And for the eye, sometimes it's just too much. But they're always, they just, you know, your eyes are a lot of times your party planners. I mean, they're always in for a good time. Now, your S's are doves. So a dove, they still, if you'll go back, whoops, went back too far. My computer catch up here. Your S's are a little bit slower paced, but they still like people. So your D's are task oriented, your I's are people oriented, and so are your S's. But your D in the last personality type that we're going to talk about, your C's are task oriented. They're all about getting it done. Here's just another chart that's a good one for you guys to do a screenshot just to understand. Your S's, the qualities that make them who they are is they're just a little bit more methodical, but they are still your people-oriented personality types. Now your C's, you know, I always think of the C as the wise old owl. They're a lot more methodical, and you'll see in just a little bit, your C's a lot of times are your accountants, they're your engineers, they're going to spreadsheet things out, they're going to really think through and not make any fast decisions. When you go to do a listing presentation to a C, you better have your stats, and your stats better be accurate, because any inaccuracy in any of those numbers could cause them to really question whether you know what you're talking about. But you, same, if you're dealing with a C personality and it's a buyer and they have some questions, you better be specific with the answers to those questions. And don't just answer the questions just to give them an answer. You need to know the answer. If you don't know the answer, you need to go get it and then come back to them. But they're also not the type of personality that's going to sign on the dotted line immediately. They want to think about it. They want to research it, and then they'll get back to you because they're very detail oriented. Again, a lot of times that's your accountants, that's your engineers. Those are the people that just really, they're slow and steady, but they'll still win the race with their slow and steadiness. They're also your personality types, and why I think this is so important for you guys to know the different personality types is because if you're, for example, if you're dealing with someone who's a really high D and you're dealing with someone that's a really high C, changes in closing dates that are out of their control could drive them absolutely crazy. So knowing what's going on every step of the way in that transaction, and if there's any changes to the numbers and there's any changes to the dollar figures or the dates, you better have a really good explanation. It's not a social event for them. It's a big deal. So knowing and understanding what to expect whenever you're dealing with those is super important. So the different personality types, going back to the D. So your D, remember, they're dominant, they're determined, they're demanding, they're driving, they're doers. They are action takers. They are take charge, want to make it happen kind of people. So you can identify them by, and this is a good chart for you guys to have. You identify them from just the get it done. I mean, they really are, whenever they leave a meeting that you just had, then they're going to, whatever action items, for instance, if you give a D a list of the repairs that you need them to make before they put their house on the market, a D is going to get right on it and make it happen. They're going to make sure that whatever you ask for gets done. But it's really important whenever you're talking to a D that you, again, are straight to the point, checklist, bulletproof, eye contact, or not bulletproof, bullets, and then make sure that you have, that you're making good eye contact for them. They're take charge, direct kind of people. And they can handle your fast pace. So get to the point and do it fast. Build urgency. Hey, I need you to get this done. These are the items that I need you to have done so we can get your house listed, and I want to get your house listed in the next 2 weeks, because if we don't, we're going to miss the market. So here's specifically what I need you to do, and text me pictures as soon as you get it done, and I'll let you know. Those are that's the kind of conversation that you can have with the D personality. Or, hey, here's a list of all of the houses that you said hit the mark for you. Please let me know by end of business today which one of these houses you want to go schedule to look at tomorrow. Or you could say, hey, listen, I don't have your pre-approval letter yet. I need you to call the mortgage company and get me a copy of your pre-approval letter, and I need that by the end of business today. You're not going to intimidate a D by being that direct whenever you're communicating with them. Your I personalities are more your influencing. They're impressive, they're interactive, they're inspiring, they're your initiators. I mean, look at the list of people that are the I personalities and really relate how their personality just shines. I mean, they're the people that people are attracted to because they just kind of have that glow, and people want to be around them. So your I personality, they're enthusiastic. Again, they are action people too. They like to collaborate. They're your influencers. So really think about the different people that influenced you and look at their different characteristics. If they're outgoing and optimistic, persuasive, lively, and charming, they're probably your I personality. So when you're talking to them, these are some of the things that they are looking for. They'll be talking with their hands. They laugh and smile and have a good time because life is just a lot of fun. And they like people. So with an I, they want to like you. So, we talk about all the time that you do business with people you know, like, and trust. With an I, it's really important that they like you and you like them. They want that rapport. So they're going to always be trying to build common ground. You want to encourage them to talk because that's what makes them feel comfortable. Before you get down to that bullet point, this is what I need you to do. You need to build rapport. And their greatest fear is rejection. They just want everybody to like them. So don't get in a super big hurry. Those are not the people you're going to bounce into their house, go look at their house real quick and go, okay, yeah, I think I can get this sold in such and such period of time, and this is what you need to do. You need to build rapport before you get down to business with them. So your S's. Now your S's are more of your supportive, sensitive, steady, stable, servant leader type personalities. So if you think about some of the S's that are some of your famous S's, it kind of helps you relate that personality a little bit. So, you know, if you just keep in the back of your mind, Mr. Rogers, you know, if someone is displaying some of those nurturing, stable, they're not talking so fast, they're not talking bossy, they just are really, they like people, but they're just a little bit more slower pace. They're more in a lot of times in your supportive role. Now, as a real estate agent, every one of you guys could have any of these personalities, and it doesn't make you, I mean, everybody's different, but it means that your transaction, the way you approach a transaction, is going to be different based on your different personality types. And of course, the way the personality of the other agent on the other end of the transaction, once you know and I have identified their personality, it makes the negotiation a lot better. But your S personalities are just a lot more patient. They're slower whenever they communicate. They're more willing to help. They're more accommodating. And they're paying attention to body language. They're not as expressive with their hands, and they're certainly not going to move and talk quite as fast. They're going to be paying attention to other people's body language because that's how they determine how they're going to act and react. But it's super important to those S's that everybody get along and that there is some rapport built. Remember, your S's are still people-oriented. They need to trust you. So when we're dealing with an S personality, we can't get just right down to interest rates because they still need for us to build trust with them. And security is a big deal for them. They want to know that everything is going to be okay. And they need validation that they made the right decision. So whenever you guys are working with them, reminding them of why they made the decision they did to be in this neighborhood or why they decided to buy this house really matters to them. Reinforcing that the decision that they made is the right decision for them and their family. And their greatest fear is criticism. They do not like to face criticism. They're your people pleasers of the world. Then you've got your C personalities. These people are super cautious. They're not going to make fast decisions. They're going to think about it. They're going to research. They're going to research what they researched. So whenever you're providing them information, they want to know that you know what you're talking about as well. So here's a list of some of the personality types that fit that C. Find one that you identify with and understand their personality so it makes it easier for you to relate whenever you meet and are working with the C. But just know, accuracy is super important. For an example, if we're working with someone that has a C personality, again, for me, I get to look at when they were born and I get to see what they do for a living. So a lot of times I kind of have a leg up on understanding the different personality types because I'm privy to those two pieces of information. But if you guys were to know those personality types up front and could secretly tell whoever you're working with, hey, this is the personality of the person that you're dealing with, it would make it so much easier for us to all earn that trust. But accuracy really matters. So whenever we are working with someone who is the C personality, we know that more than likely they're going to take the numbers that we've provided them and they're going to they've already created their own spreadsheet and they're going to put those numbers together and compare us side by side with all of the different options. Even if I were to provide them the estimate, which we always provide the information in writing, it doesn't matter. It's not enough. They want to work those numbers and do their own research. But they also want to know that I know what I'm talking about as well. So the confidence is super important for us whenever we're talking to a C personality. They're very analytical. They're very deliberate. They're going to ask a ton of questions, and you can't be offended by their questions. It's part of their research process. It's not because they don't trust what you're saying. It's not because, well, actually it is. They want to know that you know what you're talking about, and they're going to ask a lot of questions, and that's okay. You cannot get offended by that. They're very reserved. They're extremely organized. These are the folks that come into our office with a folder with tabs and everything's paper clipped based on the different categories that it goes in. I can identify a C with just a short 2-minute conversation or by the way they walk into our office. When you go to their house for a listing appointment, they're the ones that are going to have an owner's manual of everything and have a list of everything that they've replaced and when they replaced it. That's your C personalities. But they need you to have lots of information as well. Credibility is super important to a C. So be sure that you have printed information, not just a conversation, because they want to see it in writing. They want to make sure that you get it right. If there's any changes to the numbers, you know, if you do a net sheet and then you have some repairs that are being done that gets negotiated, you better update that net sheet and get it back to them with those new figures, because those numbers really matter to them. So this is just kind of a great little way for you guys to identify with the different personality types. So this is the banana peel example. So a D style slips on a banana peel and they yell, "Ow, stupid banana peel," as they continue on their own way. An I personality slips on a banana peel and they turn to the passerby and they're looking for a conversation. They're going to make a social event out of it. "I can't believe I just did that. Did you see that?" They're making a party out of slipping on a banana peel. And then your S personality type slips on a banana peel and they gasp. They look around to see who was looking and they go, "No one saw that. No harm done." But your C personality is going to slip on that banana peel and they're going to pick it up. They're going to analyze it. They're going to look for the closest trash can and they're going to throw the banana peel away so it never happens to anybody else. Those are your 4 different personality types and how they deal with the same situation. So as you're doing your transactions, you got to be thinking about that every step of the way. Based on the different personality types, how they're going to handle this situation. And understand that you're not just talking about one personality type. You usually have at least 2 people involved in that transaction, plus you have a real estate agent on the other end of the transaction, plus you have a buyer or a seller that's probably 1 or 2 people on the other end of the transaction, plus a lot of times you have a lender involved in the transaction that has a different personality type, and you have your escrow officer who is on the so you need to know and identify your different personality types and know how they like to be communicated with. This is the one little screenshot that I thought would be good for you guys to keep, so I'm going to give y'all just a few minutes to take a picture with your phone so that it makes it easier for you guys to identify these personality types as you run across them. But just know your D personality, that's your driver. 18% of the customers or the clients that you work with are going to be a driver personality. It's pretty easy to identify. They're bossy, they take charge, they're telling you how to do your job. They'll tell you whenever they're available instead of waiting for you to tell them when they are. Your I personality is 28% of the population, and they're really just your salespeople. They really like to talk about themselves. They are very talkative, and everything that they do is a social event. So if you've got an I personality in your office, that I needs to be the party planners. Because if an I plans a party, it's going to be a good time. But you're going to want your C's to be the ones that put the budget together so that your I doesn't get out of control. And your D is going to make sure everybody does what they're supposed to be doing. Your S is going to be the one that is going to be behind the table, pouring the punch into everybody's glass, because that's how they prefer. They still want to be, they're still people oriented and they're there for a good time, but they're not there to be the center of attention. But so 14% of the people that you deal with are going to be your C's. So we don't have that many engineers and accountants that we deal with. The majority of the people that you work with, 40% of them are going to be your S personalities. And those are pretty easy people to get along with. So everybody take a picture of that. This is just a little cheat sheet to have in your phone so you can identify the different personality types and know how you need to communicate with them. So we ran through that really quickly because I wanted you guys to be able to do, to identify what your personality type is. So switching gears and understanding that it's not all about what I need, it's about what they need in order to make decisions and move forward, just means really pausing and reflecting on what it is, what is the intention of this meeting, because that's super important. When you're scheduling to go meet with the buyer to go look at houses, when you're scheduling a meeting to go over the inspection report, when you're scheduling a meeting because for some reason the value didn't come in as expected, and now you guys have got to refigure and restructure and come up with a game plan. Or, just all of the challenges. If you stop and reflect on what the intention of this conversation is, and then you are able through behavior to identify the different personality types, then go back to that chart and make it really clear to accomplish that. Make it really clear what the intention and the purpose of the meeting today, at this moment, this is what we're trying to accomplish. And then in your mind, you got to have your game plan based on the personality types to make sure you accomplish what the intention and the purpose of that meeting was. Does that make sense? So like, even to the point now, you guys, where when I'm scheduling something on my calendar, 15 minutes before that calendared item, I am setting a reminder on my calendar to set the intention and remember what the purpose of that time is. Whether it be the 15-minute appointment or a 30-minute appointment or an hour appointment. If you know what the intention and the purpose of that conversation is, and you understand the personality of the people you're dealing with, you're going to be able to get to the point and have the outcome that you're looking for. But you've gonna have to just mentally pause. But for someone who it's all about the party and it's all about the fun, like remember I'm a parrot and I have a lot of D in me. So I like to take control and have fun with that party as I boss everybody around. But if that's not the personality of the people that I'm dealing with, I've got to slow down, understand, and then make sure that the outcome is what I need it to be in order to continue to move forward with the transaction. And that's as difficult as that sounds. When you have that chart handy, or if you're a visual person and you're thinking about the bird, or you're a people person and you're thinking about the different personality types and who displays those personality types, and you start putting those faces to those different personality types when you're dealing with them, I think that it'll be a lot easier to overcome those challenging times that we all run into. Even if it's just the first time you've ever met with them. If you know that you're dealing with someone who's coming from TI and they've worked at TI for 30-something years, chances are they're an engineer, and you need to be very punctual, you need to be very intentional, and you need to have your research done before you meet with them, because they're not your wing it kind of people.